So when I look back at everything and, oh yeah, I've got this guy, this world champion rides my stuff, and he won this certain competition riding my bit. No, that's not what mattered. That guy was my friend. He used to come to my shop and we'd hang out. We'd build bits together. He'd design a bit, and he calls me twice a month. That guy. It was about the relationship I formed with him. Mm-hmm. That's what matters.
Right.
Not the other stuff, and you take it and leave it, and it won't carry on.
The Converse Cowboy Journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers that are living the Western lifestyle, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test yourself in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I realize that there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts. This is the Converse Cowboy. Brought to you by Kerry Kelley Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter.
All right, Kerry Kelley, my friend, I'm very grateful to have you here at Schaefer Outfitter here in the Stockyards. One of the most well-known bit and spur makers around today. I'm curious to dive into your story, and I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that are going to thoroughly enjoy hearing your story, from the very beginning, the grind, the ups and downs, to where you are today and what you have going on, and then also what's going to come up next. And so that's kind of the layout, the outline of what I'd like to cover, and then also tap into your mindset, because you're not only one of the best bit and spur makers, there's the other side of that. There's the business, the marketing, and in my opinion, I think you're so savvy when it comes to that, so I'm curious. I'm going to quit talking here, but take me back to that time back in 1995 or before 95. Like, what led to the start of Kerry Kelley Bits and Spurs?
Okay. Well, just like most kids, I started welding in ag class, and when I was a freshman or whatever, and I guess I always kind of steered towards that type of thing. So the first 2 or 3 jobs I had in high school, they were welding jobs. Kind of did the steel stuff and never wood. It was always steel, and my parents had a heat treating company here in Fort Worth, and with a little bit of insight from my stepdad, he was a metallurgist, so I got some insight on steel and things like that.
What exactly is that?
A metallurgist,
Yeah.
It's like a modern day blacksmith. They
Okay.
just have a degree in metallurgy.
Right on.
So I worked at a place. I roped a little bit, and I worked for Cody Todd part-time. I just, whenever I had a day off, vacation or whatever, and his dad was there, Bill Todd, and he's looking back, he was probably a mentor of mine, and everyone there, they all wore Ray Anderson spurs. Ray just lived across the road from Bill back then. He was from Levelland. He moved to Weatherford, and then he moved back to south of Abilene before he died. But Ray was a really good bit and spur maker. A lot of people collected his stuff around here. So Bill took me one day. He said, "Hey, let's go to Ray's and we'll get your first pair of spurs made." So we did that, and I ordered the spurs. I got them, and I told Ray when I was there, I said, "Hey, I'm going to build a pair of spurs." He goes, "Oh yeah."
How old are you at this time?
24,
Okay.
probably. He goes, "You build them, bring them back here and show them to me. I want to see them." So I did. I built them as soon as I could, and I was hustling back over there, And he took them. He said, "Man, he did a good job," and this and all of that. And he goes, "Man, I want to tell you something though. When you build a pair of spurs, you need to really finish them, because it's that feel, that smooth feeling, that finish on them. It's not, there's no sharp edges or anything like that." And that's one thing. That's something I took to heart all these years, and I still remember those words to this
Right.
day, and try to emulate what he told me.
Yeah. So how did you build that first set though? Like you had never built them before. Like you had a blueprint or have somebody telling you what to do.
Well, no. I just kind of tinkered around with it. My parents also had I would call it a hot rod shop. They built dragsters and stuff. They had a couple guys there, full fab shop. So I went in there and I just messing with their benders and whatever. I cut some stuff out with a plasma and used their TIG welders and did them in that hot rod shop, the first pair.
Right on.
And took them to him.
Right on. So, all right. So you get that piece of advice from him. What next? Like, did you go build another pair and bring them back to him?
So I built that pair, and like Tim was there with me. Tim was always around me. And he said, build me a pair. And then the next guy there, ended up building everyone there a pair of Spurs.
Right.
And it just went on from there. It seems like I had some papers. I found that book the other day and I looked at it and I was like, well, about the first 150 I gave away. So they weren't that good. So they were just worth giving away, I guess.
Yeah, but that's no different, man. When you said that, it reminds me of the musicians that I've sat down on here. They go and they're either busking for free or just making whatever tip money they can, but they're playing for free, honing in on that craft, and getting their reps in, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So it went on from there, and Bill would say, oh, let's go to Western Heritage, and we'd go trade some Spurs around and walk around, buy something, and that kind of inspired me to go, hey, I think I want to do this. I think I want to do this for a living. And Wendy probably graduated from college in 98.
Your wife, Wendy.
And maybe 99. And she got a job and she had insurance, which I was carrying the insurance until then. And I go, man, I think I'm gonna quit my job, Wendy. We got it made with your deal. We'll just dive on out there.
Yeah.
And I never knew this, but her dad said to somebody, and it came back to me years later. It came back, and he was like, I don't know what he's thinking, what he's going to do to my daughter. Because, I mean, you think about it, you're going to go to make a living building bits and spurs, or it wasn't even bits, and it was just spurs.
Yeah.
And I just had to trust the Lord, that He was going to provide for me. He did, man. He always did.
Yeah.
He really did.
Man, I want to kind of hang there just for a minute, because I can speak for myself, and I know there's a number of other people out there that are at that age, and they're like, shit, I don't know what to do. I kind of want to do this, but there's a lot of unknowns and the fears and the worries and the maybe the stories that other people are telling them what they should be doing. Like, what was it that gave you the confidence to say, man, I can do this?
I guess it was all of those guys, and just they were passionate about what I was doing. So they saw that I loved it, and they thought, those Cowboys, hey man, you build Spurs, let's build me a set, man. Those are cool. I love them,
Yeah.
That kind of kept me going. That's what it was.
Yeah. So tell me, like the first year, you say, I'm going to go do this, you show up. Did you just quit the other job altogether, like burn the boats, and then started doing this thing full time? What about those first couple of years, first 2 years, like what's going on? How's business coming in?
Yeah, there was always orders. I was like, oh man, I'm down to I only have 5 orders here. And
is it just you at the time?
Just
like nobody
me.
else in the shop?
Just me. I've got 5 orders, and then something else would come up, and I go, well, I'll make a few and I'll just go here or whatever. I always thought, well, if I have some made up, I'll always sell them. So you'd see me at wherever I was at the stock show. I'd pedal. I used to pilfer through the cutting when they wouldn't let me in. It's not that hard anymore. I'd go through the cutting with a backpack on there, and there would be guys in business like I am now, and they'd be talking about me. Hey, they go tell the person running the show, hey, Kerry's in here selling Spurs. You better get him out of here. So.
That's funny. So what was the advice that Ellison Carter gave to you?
Well, let me tell you about Ellison first. So he's another one of those mentor guys. And he meets me one day, and I'm just a kid. I really am. I mean, looking back at it, you know, as old as I am now, I mean, I was just a punk kid.
Yeah.
And he met me and goes, "Hey, come out. I want you to build me a couple of pairs of Spurs. I saw some Spurs you built, whoever it was. Come out and I want you to build me some Spurs. And so come out to the yard, and I'm gonna give you a spur order." So he did. He probably ordered 10 or 12 pairs of Spurs. Boom. I mean, like, wow, this is good. And after that, it was like, hey, my friend Robbie Thigpen, he wants to order 10 pair for his buddies. And then this guy up here in Kansas wants some. This guy in Oklahoma wants some. These are all his buddies. And Johnny Trotter, it was like, that's how I met Johnny Trotter. That's how I still do business with him to this day. I mean, it was like Ellison, man, it was like a spark. So
folks
I
that don't know
owe him a lot.
Who is Ellison?
Ellison, he's a cattleman from Santo.
Okay.
Yeah. And I say he's a cattleman, but he's a lot more than that.
Yeah. So what was the advice he gave you though? He said Spurs will make you a living, but the bits will make you famous.
That's what he said. He said, "Kerry, those Spurs are good. They'll make you a good living, but those bits will make you famous."
So was it? Were you only making Spurs until then?
Yeah.
Like, was that the advice that kind of?
I go, what? The Spurs are a lot more prestigious than bits, and not really. They are not. I mean, what he was thinking was, all those good people, the Billy Clappers, they were brought to the forefront from Matlock Rose, guys like that, those great horsemen,
right,
that started using their bits and really promoted them. And that's how I really believe that's how Billy Clapper is as prestigious as he is because of Matlock Rose and some of those
right names got behind it and made it what it is. So you're one of the very few bit and spur makers that has a retail shop, which I think is genius. And you're right, you're like in the mecca of performance horse world. What was it that made you do that, and when, and what year did you open that retail store?
So a good friend of mine, his name's Wayne Jones. He had a concrete plant, and Teskey's was just kind of catty corner across the road. And he goes, "Hey man, I got this little spot right here that had some guys in an office, and it's pretty much just a warehouse building or a big metal building. It had a roll-up door and a storefront behind the roll-up door."
Right.
And he goes, "Hey, those guys moved out, and why don't you just put a store in here? You know, Teskey's is across the street." And I'm like, "What? Never had a store. Nobody has a store." I go, "Okay." He goes, "Well," he gets back to me in a couple of weeks. "Hey, these guys haven't moved out, so it's going to be 6 more months." And I just, "Oh yeah, no big deal. But he calls me up and he said, "Hey, you wanted to come do that deal?" I'm like, man, I don't know. Okay. So my mother-in-law was teaching school at the time, and I go, "Hey, you want to come run the store?" And she was like, "Sure." Man, it was like, I don't know, it just kind of, people started coming in there. It was a pretty convenient spot for people to come by because it was, you know, Teskey's was there or whatever.
What year is this?
06 or 07, I'm not sure.
And are you still working by yourself, or do you have people in the store?
I probably had one part-time kid.
Okay.
I usually kept one part-time kid. They were usually terrible, you know. Hopefully they could mow the grass.
Right.
You know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, they would just tear up stuff mainly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's where you start. That's where so she came to work with you.
She came to work with me, and then of course about that time I was getting into more of the cutting and going. I think I put a lot of stuff with Brad at Cow Horse Supply. I still couldn't get into the show. I mean, I remember Jim was like, we'll put you on the list for this and that. And then I finally go, "Hey, one of my friends worked at Letty's," and I'm like, "Hey, can I set up with y'all in there?" And they were like, "Yeah." Well, Letty's had a little clout, their sponsor or whatever. Uh-huh. Started setting up with them. not everybody like that, you know, but like you got to put stuff in Letty's store, and then you're legitimately can come to the show with them. That's how I started in the cutting, was through them. And then in 2010, I became a sponsor of the NCHA.
I see.
So then I had my own booth and just went from there. It was kind of that. I started with the Ranch Cowboys, went to the cutting, and when you go set up at the futurities and super steaks or whatever, you're there for 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks long. You better be able to produce. There's no reason to go there if you don't have the goods to sell it, you know.
How was that in the early days? Like, did you have enough product to bring to the shows, or were you selling out like at the shows and taking orders?
I would sell out. I would take a lot of orders, but I would sell out. Yes, it was not anything like it is now, you know.
Yeah. Were there any? Were the Billy Clappers, the other names in that in that market? Were they showing up to the shows still, or had they kind of
not at
pulled
that
back?
one? There were probably just one spur maker at that show.
Right.
You know, there were some other people's stuff and other booths and things like that.
Right.
That was back in the time where, you know, it was a big deal to go over to the exhibit hall and go walk around and shop, and it's not so much that way anymore, you know.
Right.
There's not a lot of people that spend a lot of time just shopping and buying Christmas. I mean, it's still good, but
So tell me this. This is a question that I'm curious to know. Like, so you're putting in the time, you're grinding this thing out, making all these spurs and bits. That doesn't teach you anything about how to run a business or how to market. Where did that knowledge come from?
Well, you know, I always look back and go, even from when I was a little kid and when I would get in trouble in high school, or my friends would get in trouble in high school, I would look at them and go, man, that's not smart. That's a good thing. That's probably, you know, I was just taking it all in. So, you know, just going to all those shows and you talk to different makers, and maybe it might be a leather guy, it might be a saddle guy, it might be whoever. You know, you just take it all in and you go, well, you learn from the good things that they do or tell you, and they tell you bad things too, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that, or and just some of that advice, and probably just watching, you know, my parents and their business. And I have a philosophy about business, you know. I like, and I don't know if you want me to say this right now, but like,
sure.
I told you before, I said, man, I trust in the Lord first. I treat people like they want to be treated. I try to do the right thing every time.
Right.
I do the right thing. And I go, looking back and knowing what I know, I go, you got to be ready for the long haul. Because spur making ain't easy. And you're sure not going to make a fortune all of a sudden and you're just going to retire. You got to be ready for everything and be passionate about what you're doing. Everybody goes, oh, you picked the right job and you'll never work another day in your life. No, that's bullcrap, because I've worked my ass off. And I was passionate about it, but I still worked. And I work every day, you know. It's tough sometimes.
Well, there's a quote you said the last time we toured through your shop. You said, when you own your own business, you get to only work half days.
Just half a day.
And you get to pick which 12 hours you want to work.
Right.
Man, that stuck with me. That's one of those that stuck with me. And that's what people don't see. You know, that's what's interesting. People see Kerry Kelley and the brand. They see this sign and all of this cool shit you're producing, you know, but they don't see the other stuff. They don't see the 12 hours a day, probably more than that, I would think, in the shop to get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have any advice for like a young, either businessman or a woman or bit and spur maker, like what's your advice to the young kid that's thinking about going down that road? Because that's important, like your intention and having the foresight to see that this thing's going to be a long road and really know why you're doing it.
Right. You said something a while ago, like what led me to do the things that I did, and what didn't chill me on building spurs and going out on my own. And I thought this the other day when there was a kid working for me, and he was going to go out and do this thing, and I said, man, he's going to have a hard time doing it. And I was like, what? You know how many people said that about me? And I'm like, more power to him. Go get it. Be passionate about what you're doing.
Right.
And be ready. Just be ready to put the work in. And just go for it. You know,
Right.
Just go for it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do something.
Right.
Don't let anybody tell you that that's dumb. First of all, I mean, many people told me that. They used to talk to me like, hey man, your wife must have a good job. Wow, you just built a new house? Your wife's doing good.
That's funny, man. And that's something we were talking about on the way over here earlier this week. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's like, I'm a firm believer in the power of intention and positive thinking. When do you, like, if whatever you want to do, like if you have a goal or a dream, like how long do you pursue said dream until you realize, okay, I probably need to pivot, or I probably need to take another route? You know what I mean? How long do you keep going down this road in a pursuit with, you know, and the example, we talked about this with Randy Bloomer the other day. He's like, I'm not going to be in NFL, or I'm not going to be in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of silly to say, oh, you can really do anything you want. Well, I can't climb to the top of this building and jump off and fly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I want to know your opinion on that. Like, how long do you pursue something?
You know, I always let it play out, and there's certain things I've done, and I'm like, man, I'm really gonna get this on, and I'm gonna give this a really hard try, and then all of a sudden it's like that's not going anywhere, but then it evolves into something else, and then it's like, oh, that's what I need to do, and it took that little failure, maybe not a failure, just a learning curve, to steer you in the right direction.
Yeah,
that's happened to me many times.
Yeah,
but there's been so many times I've been like, oh man, that worked out great.
Yeah, right.
Like having Danielle. Oh, I mean,
Danielle Campbell, right?
Right. I'm like, I could have gone south with so many barrel racers, and like that girl wouldn't have been she wouldn't have been perfect for me. This girl can design bits. This girl doesn't know how to train horses, you know, and this girl's really famous. This girl's beautiful, and she'd sell a lot of bits, but it takes more than that. It takes all of them. Danielle has the whole package.
Right.
So she was perfect for me, and I was like, how could that be working out so well for me? And it did, for both of us.
Right. I think that's so important, right? Like taking that step, showing up consistently every single day, good stuff's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It may not go exactly how you think, and you may have to pivot and go over the speed bumps and overcome the hurdles. You keep showing up. I'm glad you said that, because other stuff may present itself that you didn't even see possible, you know, or didn't even think was possible. I want to know, like, how. So, in my opinion, I think your bits and spurs are the best around, and at the most affordable price. Like, how do you continue to improve? Like, how do you continue? Because when it's early on, you had this grind mentality, you know. And I think about this in my own business. I had this grind mentality, and then I have to really consciously think about that, because I kind of get comfortable or relaxed a little bit. Like, how do you keep that grind mentality and continue to improve and come up with new designs?
That's a good question, because it is 2.5 decades later that I've been doing this, you know. And like, I remember back, and I think I've talked to you this about when we were just having a conversation, that I used to dream about it. I would fall asleep thinking about what I was going to do tomorrow or whatever, those good ideas that I need to write down. But I guess now I look at what I've done, and I'm never satisfied. I don't think anybody, it gets to a certain level or is a satisfied person. So I'm like, I'm gonna put that ledge on that spur, I'm gonna improve this, I'm gonna make this. And I've always hey, the quality and the functionality of this has got to be first and foremost. You know, they need to be wearing them. They need to be, oh, those spurs fit the best, or they work the best, or whatever. You can, you know, we all make, it's the same thing, but there is a certain level that people are going to go, that works. That price isn't that high. Most people say they're way too high, but that's what it's just not being satisfied, you know, and keep on working and dreaming up the next thing.
Yeah. Well, you're making stuff that's durable enough for the everyday cowboy that's going out punching cows, but also classy enough for those performance horse guys to ride in arenas and trust it, you know? So in doing my research, I saw a few different times you mentioned I'm not an artist. What I make is more practical. Can you tell me what when I read it, I'm like, damn, I wonder what he means by that. Because in my opinion, what you do is art.
I always think of myself as like, I'm not the best spur maker. I'm not the best bit maker. I'm not the best silversmith. I'm not the best welder. I'm not the best blacksmith at all. I'm not the best engraver. I'm not the best businessman. But just like I talked about Danielle, she's got all those things. I have I'm above average on all those though.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not the best though. I could tell you a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people. I'm not, and people will tell me to this day, hey, you're no so and so, and I'm like, I know, I know that.
Yeah,
you know, but
there's like this level, and I think you have to have it, like that knowledge of knowing you're above average. And it's like I've been journaling a lot about this lately. It's like a humble confidence, and you and I may have talked about this before, like having the confidence to know your stuff is the shit. Like it's good, very good, but also humble enough to know it can improve and it can get better, and you can take advice from other people. You know?
Yeah, and you can get burnt. You know, people tell you suck too.
Yeah,
they tell you that all the time. They'll tell you that on the internet.
What do you do when that comes up? When that negativity comes around?
I'm a lot more thick-skinned than I was. You know, it's funny though that I was talking to Craig Lewis about this, and I was like, I mean, I'm so glad Gary goes to those shows and he deals with those people, and because they can say a little something that really, you know, it'll hurt your feelings. Really, that's what it'll do. I mean, because you poured all your time and 2 neck surgeries, my elbows are shot, my fingers are done, you know, I mean, I've worn my body out on this trade, and then you say something like that, and then, I mean, it's like, that'll get all over you.
You take it personal, yeah.
You do take it personal.
But is it from someone that you respect, or is it from someone
No, it's usually someone that probably doesn't care a bit about you, you know?
Yeah.
And I always say that. I always say it to people. I'm like, man, don't say that to people. Don't be that person.
Right.
Where does that get you? That makes you look bad. Especially when you do it on the internet, and everybody gets to see what kind of person you are.
Up there.
Everybody, you might be. Oh yeah, you're really burning me up on the internet because you think that I'm terrible or something. But you make yourself look really bad.
Right. I've gotten to where I just tune it out. It's like one of those things. I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and like Stoicism 101 is control what you can control. Mm-hmm. I can control what I say, but I can't control what you hear. You know what I mean? And I can't control what you think about me. All I can control is my intentions on what I'm doing. And so if you want to talk shit, if you want to judge me or whatever, that's fine. Like I used to be, I was going to say borderline narcissistic, but I was pretty much full-blown narcissist. But I don't know why I can't say that word. but it's one of those things. It's I don't, just through expanding my awareness to that, it's like that serves me in no way to even pay any attention to this. Mm-hmm. You know, where we place our attention is where we place our energy. And so it's like, okay, I'm good with it. You know, it may get me, and I have to like really be conscious of it and tune that out and just be okay with it, you know?
I always like to have somebody around me that says, that you can talk to like that, and you go, so-and-so said this about me, and they go, oh yeah, they're jealous. Yeah, they're just jealous. They're scared of you. They're jealous, and they're scared of you.
Because rarely will you find somebody who has achieved a level of success higher than you talking shit about you. Those people are rooting you on. It's these people.
Or the equivalent. If my competition's talking about me, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
And when they stop talking about me, when they stop it, you're not doing enough.
Yeah. Okay, tell me this, like, along those same lines, like, what is some of the worst advice someone has ever given you in your industry?
Man, I must have tuned that one out and
could have been
thrown it away.
Could have been like when you were starting out. Could be about business, spur making. Could be about any of it.
Yeah, there's people that come and probably say, "Oh, you don't need to do this. You don't need to go out with Cactus and build a new bit line. That's terrible. I'm gonna quit doing business with you because of that now. Because you're gonna go out and do that with Cactus, and you're gonna cheapen your name, and I don't want anything to do with you anymore." And guess what? The Cactus thing didn't work out for us in 2008. It was pretty good income for me for that year. They didn't really sell that well, but you know what? They spelled my name right, and even the bad stuff, it helped it. It helped the cause. I mean, as bad as everybody thought it was, and whatever. Man, yeah. It was just publicity.
Yeah.
So
I'll flip that question now. What's some of the best advice you've been given or heard? It may not even been given, but maybe overheard, like in your industry.
You sit around a show, and I don't do it as much anymore. But I started wholesaling my stuff when I went into the bit business, and you'll probably go into that later. But I went out and wholesaled this stuff because Jim was doing that, and I had it floating everywhere. It was going around the world. We were selling it in Japan, Australia, Europe, all over the United States and Canada, even Brazil. I mean, I had wholesale customers in Italy. They would bring briefcases to me and buy bits over here, and did that for a long time. And my name was out there. I mean, it was big. I mean, everybody knew who I was. And Joey and I were talking. He was telling me about this guy. He was Joey Jemison? Joey Jemison. He was in our industry, and he goes, "Man, that guy, he had this business going on, and he had everybody. He had people all over the United States. And one day, he got all his ducks in a row. Maybe it was internet or something, and he said he shut them all off. Guess what? Everybody had to come to him. I did that. I shut them all off and drug it back in. It was the best move I ever did. But it took that whole thing to come around."
When was that? Like what year?
Man, I don't even know what that was. It's only been 5 years now, 5-6 years.
Was that one of those you sat and pondered on if that was the right move or not?
No, it made perfect sense. I mean, Joey didn't do it, but he was not a wholesale guy anyway, but he didn't do it, but like he's like, yeah, it made perfect sense. And that's when I went and did I renewed the website, and we've gone forward even before. Later on, we've done even more with that now. Right. So I mean, if you want a Kerry Kelley bit, you know where to get you. It's not hard to find it.
Yeah. Tell me.
I've got more. I've got more of them too. I used to go to all those little shows, and John and Mary Valines used to put on. They would do the Western Heritage. They were the people that put on those bit and spur shows. And Mary, she was the sweetest old lady. They're both passed away now, but she was a sweet lady, and I have a picture of her. I'd love to blow it up and just put it in my shop. And she told me one day, she looked at me, and this was a long time ago, and I put KK on my Spurs forever. It was KK and a number, and then I put Kelley with an EY. Oh, of course, there's Kelley's, there's Kelley Brothers, there's KB&P. That's kind of a spur name if you want to think about it. She goes, "Kerry, put both your names on your Spurs. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, put both your names, put Kerry Kelley on there. And I go, okay, I'll do it. It was pretty smart, I thought. You know, that was a smart move. She knew what she was talking about.
What year was that?
That was in probably, it's probably been 22, 23 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And still doing it today.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one, though. It's funny how you remember those little things that some person.
Yeah.
Some person with a good heart told you something, you know, they cared about you, you know, and they gave you that advice. It's what happened to me many times.
Well, yeah, the trick is, are you conscious enough to catch it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of that stuff flows to us sometimes and may fly by us, but yeah, are you aware enough to catch it? I read a quote that you said there's certain times where I'll do scroll work or come up with a design on a spur and I'll say, damn, that's the best I've ever done. I added the damn in. I don't think you said that. So you said this is the best I've ever done. Of course, 6 months later, I'll do something better. You know? And so like, how do you come up with something and I think about myself when I read that quote, and it's like the self-judgment comes up and all of these crazy stories that I create in my own head, but it's like you can always look back 6 months and you're like, damn, I was so stupid back then. You know, like, why did I do that?
Just 6 months ago.
Yeah. So do you use that as something to like motivate you to continue to improve? Because you look back and you're like, damn, what I just made is way better than that. Like, what can I do 6 months from now?
Now I get caught up in the work and keeping everyone busy and keeping flowing and filling orders, and somebody will come to me and go, hey man, would you do this? And sometimes I'll go, hell no, dude. You know how long it take me to do that? And then other times I go, man, I've got to be open-minded. And when somebody comes to me like that, I mean, like, that would be cool. I mean, maybe I spend some time doing that, and maybe it costs me a lot of money. They don't understand that. In that amount of time that it took me to come up with this unusual, one-of-a-kind things, I've made 20 bits, 20 spurs, I'm talking silver stuff, and they don't understand. And then they go, oh, charge me twice as much. And I'm like, no, it's not even close to that. It's like, I got to charge you 40 grand. So,
Yeah.
But I have to stay like that. I can't get closed-minded and be like, cantankerous Kerry. I got to be like open-minded and go, man, I'll do that. That's going to help me. It's going to make that spark or that artistic thing come out in me. Just trying to do that. So that's what I do.
Right.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
Doing it and saying it's two different things sometimes. When you get caught up in everything else.
Is that when you tap into that flow state whenever you get in there and you're grinding it out? I know you're listening to music, but what's the mindset? Like, are you coming up with ideas while you're working on other stuff?
Yeah, you do that. And most of the good ideas, they come from other places. It might not be in my shop or looking at Western stuff or even spurs or guns or something like that. It could be just, I could be on vacation somewhere and man, I'm in a butterfly sanctuary or some shit, and and you get inspired by something. I don't know if butterflies have ever inspired me, but maybe.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That was stupid as hell, wasn't it?
Musicians talk about that though, man. They'll talk about washing dishes, and this idea comes out of the sky and drops in on them. And I know you and I had dinner a few weeks ago, and you were telling me you had one of the best ideas ever, and you probably wouldn't be working today if you had remembered it, but you didn't write it down.
I didn't write it down, and it was right at that little place where you're going out of conscious
and fell asleep.
Man, that was a great idea. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, so my question is, there is no blueprint or formula in business that says if you show up for X amount of hours, then success will be guaranteed. So how do you know how hard to work, and how do you know like how many hours to put in? Have you found like a routine or system that works for you?
You're gonna put in a lot of hours. There's those times where you don't need to get burnt out. I've always been blessed to work at my house, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, because I remember, there's those times where I would stay up all night. There's those times at Christmas where I wake up at 2:00 in the morning and I go to work and I stay, and then I go to the show and then I'm up till 12:00 at night. Those are bad things. Like, people that own their own business, they do that though. They routinely serve that. And people that don't work for themselves, man, they got it easy sometimes. They don't carry that load like we do. Mm-hmm. What else were you asking me?
No, that was it. Like, it's something I think about. Like, when I show up at my office, as a real estate investor, it's like.
But going on from that, though, now the older that I get, I'm like, I'm gonna go to my kid's baseball game. Right. Okay. I'm gonna spend time with them, and I'm gonna say, when those guys go home at 4:00, I might stay here till 5, but I'm shutting everything down at 5:00. Right. I'll be on the grindstone come November, come October. It'll probably be more like mid-October. Right. I'll be kicking that butt by then, and I'll be staying up all night. But right now, I'm going to shut it off at 5. Right. And there were times when I didn't do that. Maybe I wasn't as successful. Things are a little easier now. They are. You do it for 25 plus years, and things do get easier. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. I'll segue that into another quote that you said. You said the product sells itself, but it's the service that keeps people coming back. And so I've been fortunate enough to meet the team that you have right now, and every one of them I think very highly of. So how hard is that to find those people, keep those people, and create that culture that you have?
Yeah, an employee can make a liar out of you. I always think the best of them. And I do have a great group of them right now. I absolutely think they would do anything for me, right. But I would do the same for them. Right. So I treat them like family, first of all, and they love me back, and they do stuff for me. They like care about what they're doing. Sure. They care about how they're coming across to people and how they're serving people. Yeah. And I think that's because. I hope it's because who I am, that I find people like me. And even in the shop, there's 7 guys, and they all respect each other. They all treat each other the same. They don't tease and kid around with each other and make fun or anything like that. Right. So, and maybe they're just taking the same line that I have, that the way I treat them with respect, and they do the same thing to each other. Yeah. So, and the girls at the store, and Gary's a blessing. Gary, man, he'll do anything for me, and I feel like I'm blessed to have him. He'll bend over backwards and drive all night or whatever, and I'm like, Gary, pull over and stop. No, I'll get back and get this going, whatever.
Well, I see it, and I feel it anytime I'm around, whether it's at your shop or at the store. It's just a cool energy, man. You got it going on, and that's, as a business owner, like, that's so hard to find. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to find.
It's great that I'm still as small as I am, because then you kind of have more of a hold of it, Right.
Talk about, this is something I think some entrepreneurs would like to hear, like hiring and firing. What does the hiring process look like for you, and then what does the firing process look like for you?
Man, I look at that person and I go, how are they gonna treat each other, and how are they gonna work in with everyone else? I look at that first and I go, man, that's probably a good person. Mm-hmm. I don't need some just gangster. If he's really good and he's a gangster, I don't need that person, Right. or girl or whatever. You know, I want that nice person first, and then what was the other side to the question? The firing part.
Yeah. Like, we'll go back to the hiring. What's that interview process look like? Are they coming in? Are they meeting with you? Are they meeting is somebody else in the store?
I always like somebody else to interview them and me just listen. That's all. That's what I do.
So you sit in with them.
I just listen. That's the best.
Yeah. Right.
Because I really don't. And sometimes if I walk off and they're not intimidated, they can be more of like who they need to be to that other person. That other person isn't intimidating them like I am.
Right. Right.
So
I don't date, but if I were to date, I think I would do that. Like, have somebody else like on the first date, and I just sit there.
And you'd be like, yes or no. you know, right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing the interview, you're like, well, that wasn't real because they were just trying to impress me, you know,
right.
or whatever.
What about the firing aspect? You have somebody working with you.
Man, I
have an idea. It may not be working out.
I hate to let people go. I hate it. I feel terrible. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes I let the guys in the shop tell me. I'm saying like, what are y'all seeing right here? And they'll tell me. They'll straight up tell me. And all of my guys, they'll sit there and you can walk in there at any time and they're not cutting up, looking around, and playing around or anything. All of them got their heads down, working. Every one of them, every station, and they're all doing it. And then I got somebody going to the restroom 10 times a day, playing on their phone, which you're not supposed to be on your phone anyway. And I don't really. I let them tell me, hey, what about? We'll give them a couple more days. Let them do that, or say, nah, that kid works good, or something, or this kid doesn't work. He's never worked in his life. He's not going to. You know, they'll tell you, and I'm like, okay, I hate to do this.
How did you handle the last kid you had to fire?
Man, I don't know if I ever handled him that good, but I'm like, I told him, I said, man, I'm gonna do you a favor. Go find something you want to do and you like, because this isn't it.
I think that's sage advice, though, man.
Right.
And the best way to handle it.
I mean, you don't like this, right? You'd be doing a lot better.
Hopefully the kid took that, though. That is very good advice. Go find something you like to do. Like, don't just show up for a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know? When people ask you about bits and functionality, I know I've asked you this question, and I'd like you to share the answer you gave me weeks ago. But how do you respond to that answer when people ask about the functionality of bits?
It actually depends on what discipline they're in, first of all. And so the disciplines are very different because some of them have trainers and they're bit shopping solely on what their trainer told them, which is perfect information. Usually the guy's using their horse and he doesn't, and they'll call him on the phone and say, what do I need? What about this bit? What about this bit? And they'll tell them. There's other ones, you know, there's the ranch horse people, or the versatility people, or even the reining cow horse people. They usually have some input from a trainer or someone like that.
Right.
The team ropers don't. They're riding their horses. They might have had a bit. One of the things that you get from them the most is, I bought this horse and they said they only use this bit on it. Okay. And then one will walk up to you and say, hey, my horse is doing this. And I said, what are you using now? And they'll tell you and they'll tell you and they'll tell you. They'll actually tell you which bit they want. Finally, it'll come out. and you go, okay, I'm gonna, I give them a couple of options. I say, your horse is doing this, or your horse is doing this, and your horse needs some rate. Well, this bit will do that, or this bit will do that, or this bit will do it. Well, my horse doesn't like that kind of bit right there. And I said, okay, we narrowed it down to a couple more. Well, how this bit's really severe, and they go, well, he's not that bad. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
You let them tell you finally.
Right.
But I don't go, oh man, a correction does this to this horse and this. No, I've never seen your horse.
Right.
I can't tell you. I've got horses that don't like certain bits I make,
Right.
but then I've got another one that loves it. The next horse will love that bit, but they're just, they're all different.
Right. So I don't know if we want to get into this or not, but talking about tongue relief and things like that, is there like one that delivers more tongue relief than another?
Yeah, the larger ports will have the more tongue relief, and for young horses that's a good thing sometimes. And then I have bits that have a lot of tongue relief, but just so they can't lift it off, and it's going to be more severe. So there's different ways tongue relief works too.
Yeah. I'm going to we're going to shift gears. I want to talk about a little bit about some mindset stuff with you. Talk a little bit about, and I'm curious to know this answer from a lot of people, like such as yourself, who have achieved any level of success. Like, what is the metric for success for you, or like how do you define success?
Just like those guys the other night, they had great success and they were famous and this and that. And then
those guys being the bull riders, J.W. Hart, Ross Coleman, Aaron Seamus.
And they were all famous and 10-time champions and been to the NFR 7 times. And this guy won this PBR. And then you ask them a question like that and they go, oh man, everything changed and it's just about our relationships. And that's what, I think life is about. Life is about relationships. Mm-hmm. And whether it's the monetary success, I don't know. But I look at it now as like, man, that stuff only goes so far. It only took them so far, that stuff.
Right.
And now looking back on their whole situation, it was like our brotherhood's what counts. What's the best thing?
Right.
I don't know if I answered that like you wanted me to or not.
It's not about, no, you did, because it was your answer. Like it wasn't a loaded question, right? Like I wasn't looking for a certain answer.
So when I look back at everything and, oh yeah, I've got this guy, this world champion rides my stuff and he won this certain competition, riding my bit. No, that's not what mattered. That guy was my friend. He used to come to my shop and we'd hang out, we'd build bits together. He'd design a bit and he calls me twice a month, that guy. It was about the relationship I formed with him. Mm-hmm. That's what matters.
Right.
Not the other stuff, and you take it and leave it, and
yeah,
it won't carry on.
There seems to be a consistent trend. I think we were talking about this before the camera started rolling. Sat down with Randy Bloom earlier this week, Rick Grant here at Schaefer, Larry Roberts over at Western Hauler. There's a consistent trend. Kerry Kelley today, like, y'all focus on the relationships, doing the right things, and you focus on quality, producing quality products and doing whatever you think is best at that time. Right?
Right.
It can be so simple, yet why do you think more people can't do that or don't do that?
I always say, and this is a poster, when you sweat the small stuff, you can't concentrate on the big picture.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Okay.
So maybe they're just sweating the small stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That might be deeper than business stuff. I don't know.
No, I agree with it. And since you mentioned the poster, you, and I'll say this on camera, you're the only reason I continue doing those poster quotes on Instagram, because I thought they were cheesy and I was going to stop doing them. And then we visited your shop and you're like, man, I really like those poster quotes you do. And I was like, first of all, wait, you know about my stuff? You follow the Converse Cowboy, and then next, like, oh really? You so you like them? So thank you for that, and it's been a cool deal. I get to explore my writing and my brain by putting those poster quotes out, you know. And so you and I were riding in the truck one day, and you said, I got one for you. I got a poster quote for you, and it says, "Life's all a shit show. Smile anyway."
Right.
I loved it. I may have to put that. I will put that one on.
How many posters have I given you now?
You've given me a few. I haven't used any of them yet, it'll be coming soon, and I will give you credit for it. But talk about that though. Like all of the stuff you have going on, like it can pile up. Like you got a lot on your shoulders. Everything has to come to you, you know, as a business owner. You're the one making the calls. Well, what is it that makes you smile anyway?
Man, it's just knowing how blessed I am, and that, wow, it could have. I look at other people and go, man, I could be like that, or I could be miserable like that, or man, I've got it so good. And even my friend the other day, he's a great businessman. He's a construction guy. He goes, man, I would love to switch jobs with you for one day. I said, heck no. I don't want your deal.
Yeah, right.
No, I got it too good. And it's the people I get to deal with, you know, there's some bad apples every once in a while, but
Yeah.
the majority of the time it's my kind of people that I get to deal with.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not selling snow cones to Joe Blow.
Right.
I'm selling bits and spurs to like-minded people.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I love the customers. I love the people I deal with, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. This is going to be a hypothetical question. So if you could go back in time, and I know you've heard me ask this before on the show, but if you could go back in time and give your 20-year-old self advice, knowing what you know now, with all the wisdom, all the hurdles you've overcame and the ups and downs, like what advice do you give to your 20-year-old self?
And I would say, man, listen to those people, those good people, and surround yourself with those good people. Don't listen to the bad stuff. Don't even, just tune it out. That's hard to do, like we talked about. But you got to listen to you got to take the good stuff and just bury the bad.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You can't think about the mistakes you made, because man, you're forgiven. You know, and even people forgive you.
Yeah.
Just like people have bad dads. Do you remember the bad stuff your dad did? No, you remember the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's
even the bad stuff he did, I deserved it.
right.
What I thought was bad then was actually good, you know? And that's the other thing. Like in my opinion, like I journal about this a lot. Like I don't know what's good or bad. I can't judge it right now. Time will tell. If I go through this dark time or this down, it's happening. I have to believe it's happening for a reason, and I have to be grateful for that bad time.
Yep.
Because I don't know what that's going to lead to.
I tell the guys in the shop, man, I go, I don't want you to mess up, but when you mess up, that's when you learn something.
100%. It sucks, like no doubt about it. In that moment,
you tore some crap up, man. You just messed up, but you'll never do that again.
Yeah, it sucks. It's embarrassing. It's a blow to the ego, but that is where the growth happens. 100%.
Yeah, nobody ever learned anything just doing it right the first time.
Yeah,
it's those mess ups.
Yeah. What is your relationship with money?
Oh man, the more you get, the more you love it.
That's a good answer.
The more you get, the more you love it, the more you gotta have it. It's just like a drug.
Yeah.
But then you gotta listen to people, and it has to be the right person. You have to listen to them and go, money is the root of all evil, right? I mean, it is. But it can be a good thing. I think you probably need to share a little bit of it if you got it. And don't ever worship it.
Yeah.
You know? And I always go, heck, I'm gonna spend it. I do, I spend it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just money.
Yeah.
It's just money.
Yeah. I think my opinion is it magnifies who you already are. If you're a shitty person, it's going to magnify that shittiness. And if you're a good person, it's going to allow you to do more good, you know? And to your point, yeah, I think when we have an attachment to that money, that's where the problem lies. Like my expectations, my goals and desires, yeah, I want to make as much money as possible. And I don't have I'm no guilt in saying that. You know, but also am aware enough to not have an attachment to that desire, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I said it wrong though. It's the love of money. It's the love of money.
There you go.
Right? It's not the money.
Yeah, exactly. Can be used for good, can be used for bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me this, is there like a mantra, a quote that you live by that kind of is you like a beacon that guides you?
If I can be that guy that's not negative to somebody else, that I can help them, I don't necessarily need to be their savior or anything like that. But if I can pump them up and be the person that gives them what I got to keep on rolling, just their cheerleader or whatever. That's
influence.
That's just just being a positive influence to anybody that asks you or whatever, or you see somebody that's down on themselves and you can help them out.
Yeah, I think you specifically do more just by doing what you do. Like anytime I'm around you, I'm inspired, I'm motivated. When we were at your house the other day setting up for the bull riders, you're running back and forth, you're working, you're hustling. Man, that's so motivating and inspiring, and I think that is so much more important than anything you may say or to someone. So anytime I get to spend time with you or around people like a Kerry Kelley, man, I'm so grateful for that time. Yeah. Selfishly, I want to know, like, how has your style and what you're doing with the spurs and the bits changed from when you started to today?
I always somebody came to me the other day and they said, "Oh man, I want what you used to do. I want that old stuff." And I go, "That stuff sucked." Why you want that stuff? I'm always evolving, just like what you said.
Was it an older guy or younger guy?
No, just a guy that's been buying stuff from me. I liked your old stuff. Do them with the bars and just the wheat stem and stuff like that. I said, man, I'm like, I do so much better than that. Okay, I'll do that. I guess it takes all kinds, but I'm like, it always evolves a little bit. Corey does some stuff with me now too, and man, I started doing some stuff. Hey, Corey, show me how to do that. I want to do that right there. Show Jose how to do that too. Let's do it. Let's all start doing a little bit of that stuff, and man, I love to get better at it, and learn new things.
Yeah.
But going back to the old stuff, when I go get a saddle made or I go get a belt made or whatever, I look at that person and they go, "What do you want?" And I go, "I want what you do. I want the best you can do. I want your favorite thing, how you do it, and whatever you do." And I love for somebody to come to me and say that, say, "Hey, that's what I want. I want what you do," because that's what you're going to get the best out of them then. Mm-hmm. So that me knowing that's how I buy things. Hey, do those boot tops like you want to do them. Do them like, oh yeah. They're going to be more open-minded and like, yeah. You're going to let me do my thing.
Yeah. I love that. You kind of set.
I went off on a little.
Well, no, and I'm assuming you're talking about people their work and you trust their work. But yeah, you kind of set that expectation for them. They want to deliver, right? Mm-hmm. I want your best.
I want your best. I want what you do.
Yeah. I love it. What do you think, like, when you hear the name, like an Adolph Myers or Billy Clapper? What comes to mind when you hear those names?
Those two guys, like, when I started in the business, or even before that, when I was thinking about it, I had those buyer's books. I had those artistry in silver and steel, and that's what I would look at. That's where I started. That's what I would emulate. Mm-hmm. And of course, Clapper was the same way. It was like he was almost, he came from buyers too. And that's what I was seeing. That's what everybody was, clappers. So I'm gonna build that shank like Clapper. I'm gonna engrave them like Clapper. I'm gonna do this and that. And man, Adolph Byers was a great artist. He was a farmer, a blacksmith, but man, that guy, unbelievable talent to have as little tools and as little knowledge about, we have the internet, we have pictures, we see all kinds of stuff now, and to expand our mind. He didn't have any of that, and that guy was a artistic genius.
Yeah.
He's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I was curious to know that, because those are some of the, the bigger names that's still around today. Is Clapper still making stuff, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have did you ever have like an imposter syndrome, like when you first started out, like thinking, man, who am I to think I can do this? Like, I'm not good enough to do this professionally. Did that ever cross your mind?
Oh,
And
yeah.
if so, like, how did you overcome it?
Oh, yeah. The naysayers that said, oh, you can't do that. You're never going to be anything at that. There were always those other people, though, that built you up, like I like to do. And that's the reason I do it to this day. I mean, because those people made me. Those Ellison Carters, those Bill Todds, those Ellison Carters, those Jim Edwards, whoever it was. I mean, they all built me up and said, shoot, you're good at this, and whatever.
Yeah. And I got to think the time you put in kind of helped with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's roll into some slow fire stuff. What do you think? I'm sure people would like to know. Slow fire round brought to you by Ghostwood Distilling Company. What does Kerry Kelley do outside of bit making for fun?
Man, I used to chase kids, and now I chase more steers. So
you're roping.
Yeah, roping a little more.
Yeah.
Got the new arena built and got over the neck surgery, and I'm cracking back out a little.
Right on.
Just a little. I mean, I'm not your guy that's going to the team roping every weekend, but at least I rope every week, now.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of a getaway for you.
Oh yeah, and that's who I am. That's who I was. I told Wendy, I said, man, I can't ever believe I got away from that and quit doing it for so long. But I didn't have time. I wasn't gonna steal from my kids to go play myself, And all three of them took my time, like mega time.
Do you ever ride anybody else's bits while you're roping or riding or doing any ranching?
I'm trying to think. No. I used to. No, not anymore.
Right on. I had a feeling.
Usually I'm at a place, even if I'm going to somebody's house, it's usually one of my friends, and they're loaded with my bits too, and
yeah,
they don't expect me to write anything else.
When you need to remember something, what do you do? Are you just taking a mental note? Are you putting it in your phone? Do you have pen and paper?
I'm a pen and paper guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Keep it in your truck and at the house?
Probably more like on the windowsill there where all the work is.
Yeah.
Right there where I write my tasks down for every day.
Right on.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna go back. I know we're in the slow fire round, but when you said that, I want to know your routine, like what time you're getting up. Are you planning each day by day, or are you setting that out at the beginning of the week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a week goal, and usually it's the same thing every week for us. There's little things in there, like we're going to a show or we've got a big show coming up, and it might change just a little bit. But usually it's filling orders every day. So we're building mouthpieces. We'll build 100 of this mouthpiece or 50 or whatever, however many we need. We'll be cutting parts, bending parts, putting parts together, welding them up, and that's part of our day. There's a couple guys doing that, or we're building shanks, we're sanding shanks, we're shaking shanks, and that's what we do every day. And then we build spurs. We build a group of spurs once a week, so we don't finish, but a few, maybe 4 a day. Mm-hmm. We'll finish them. That's what we do every day. But I write it all down every day, what we're doing, whether it's the orders, what orders I need to do, what silver I need to cut. You know, I'm cutting silver. Somebody else might help me cut a little bit of silver, but usually I'm half a day cutting silver, and then the rest of the day I'm lining out everybody else or something, you know, or doing some engraving.
Right on.
But yeah, I get up at 5:30. I wake up at 5, and then I might not get out of bed till 5:30. The guys are in the shop at 6 o'clock, so we're working. I'm in there 5:45. Usually wrote everything down by then and starting with the lights on. Fed the dogs, fed the horses, and rocking at 6.
Right on. Lunch break? No lunch break?
I'm every day at 12, pretty much, unless it's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and they all take lunch at 12. They get off at 4, and I work till 5. A lot of times I'm back and forth to the store. It's pretty close, so I'm going to get orders, or I'm taking orders up there, or meeting a customer, something like that.
Right on. At a restaurant, do you always tip 20%, or does that depend on performance?
Way more. And even there might be that really bad one that just gets 20%, but I'm going to give more. I'm going to give at least 30 plus.
So 20 is the minimum then, like if they suck.
Yeah.
Right on. What picture do you have on the home screen of your phone?
Oh, it's my lake at the house.
Right on. Mm-hmm. What do you think you would do if you didn't make bits and spurs for a living?
I used to say I'd train horses, but I wouldn't do that. Oh, man. Like, and still work?
I'll rephrase the question. If you had enough money where you didn't have to work ever again,
I'd
$100 million.
I'd rope all day.
Just rope.
And I'd fish and rope.
It sounds like you've thought about this one. Mm-hmm. Right on. Alrighty, Kerry, last question. If you could have a billboard to get a message out to millions of people, metaphorically speaking, what does your message say?
I would say just everything doesn't matter. Just smile at the world. Just smile.
Yeah.
I said that before on our poster, right?
May have been one of the poster quotes you gave me. The one you said was cheap shit ain't cool and cool shit ain't cheap.
That's a good one. That wasn't mine, but they use it. That's good.
Yeah.
There's another one I say too. Everything's all what you get used to. Remember that one? I
do. I have that in my phone. It's another one I'm gonna use, man. I'm gonna put it on one because I agree with that. What's uncomfortable at one time, you force yourself into these uncomfortable situations. You get used to it, and it becomes comfortable, and then you get good at it.
Mm-hmm. It's just like this weather.
Yeah, I don't know.
Get used to it.
Yeah, from Louisiana, man. I don't know if you ever get used to that shit. But man, that's all I have for you, my friend. But let people know where they can find you and what else, like what's coming down the pipeline for Kerry Kelley. What's some new stuff that you may have coming out that you're working on? I know I saw some new bits you're working on.
Some new mouthpieces and definitely some cow horse stuff. I love the cow horse stuff. I never have time to work on it, but you know, the California style shanks and the braces on the mouthpieces, and I really want to do some of that stuff, and I got some of that working. Boyd's got a bit that he borrowed off Clay.
Boyd Rice?
Yeah, and gonna do something with that. He loves it. I built him a couple of them. You know, I built one that was like a clapper, but this one, he loves it. So I said, well, let me have it for a little while, and they're both of them like, yeah, do it. So that's exciting for me. That's a big undertaking though.
Yeah.
So just doing that, and you know, we just get bigger at those shows and going to Vegas again, and we're gonna branch out and go to a different, you know, one more, maybe another one, but it's finding, we have to add people at that time of year. It's a tough chore.
Right on.
But yeah, that's what we're doing.
So let folks know the website.
kerrykelleybitsspurs.
Right on, man.
I didn't put a hand in there.
Well, man, Kerry, I appreciate you coming in. But more than that, I appreciate you being a part of the show. You jumped on board early on in this thing, man, and gave me a lot of street cred.
And I saw something in you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Whatever you saw, man, and I'm glad you're on this journey with me and the Converse Cowboy brand. And again, I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. Anytime I'm around you, I'm motivated. I'm inspired. It makes me want to be a better person. It makes me want to get better. And that's the people I try to surround myself with. Am I a better person for spending time with whoever this may be? Check that box. I'm going to spend more time with that person if they'll allow me to, you know?
Right.
So I say all that to say I'm super grateful that we crossed paths a year ago, and I look forward to what's to come.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.